In 1905, Navajo riders crossed the desert of Tesacad Canyon. The landscape was dry, almost lifeless. Even so, they moved in single file, alert to the land's signs. Each hoofbeat cut through the silence and pushed the group forward. Through dust and heat, they kept their course, move ahead, protect the community, and clear the way for what was to come. In 1905, a photograph taken in New Mexico shows Kohit Songwi, a young Tiwa woman, in front of a scene that crosses time. The framing reveals more than a portrait, a slice of her daily life and her people's heritage. In ceremonial attire, she becomes a bridge between past and present, reminding us that tradition stays alive with each generation. In the 1910s, a photograph froze in time a family of the Taos Pueblo people in New Mexico. More than faces, it revealed a moment of their everyday life and the culture that sustains them. Wearing traditional clothing, they affirm the continuity of their roots and the strength of the practices that shape their lives and will keep guiding the next generations. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In an 1890 photograph, Tzuche, called Mrs. Minnie, appears in the Pueblo of Lagona community in New Mexico. The portrait records her presence and shows traces of her daily life and the living tradition pulsing there, in a land in flux. It's an invitation to remember that history and recognize the culture that supported generations in the desert. In 1899, a photograph recorded a man of the Pueblo nation named Kao. In the portrait, he appears as a bridge between past and future, offering a glimpse of his people's customs at the turn of the century. Wearing ceremonial attire, his posture affirms the continuity of a way of life that endures across generations. In the image, collective memory takes shape. The image invites us to cross time. We see a young woman from a Native American people, captured in the 19th century. Her gaze, along with the details of her clothing and the setting, opens a window onto routines, beliefs, and community bonds. In this way, the photograph becomes testimony and a clue to how these societies lived and recognized themselves then. In the scene, two young Apache women from Arizona work side by side. Dry fibers slide between their fingers as the shape of the baskets appears, coil after coil. The rhythm of the motion guides a silent conversation with those who came before. Each weave carries memory, livelihood, and belonging, keeping alive a technique taught from generation to generation. In the photo, a Pawnee woman is portrayed in Genoa, Nebraska. Her portrait shows her people's culture present in that place and suggests paths of movement and belonging. In her gaze and adornments, you can sense the link to tradition, signs of how collective memory moves through places and keeps shaping identities. An Apache warrior rests, bow and arrows within reach. The scene, calm and steady, suggests more than rest. It shows symbols that hold memory, knowledge, and defense. What he carries defines who he is and how he lives. In that quiet presence, the Apache people's connection to their warrior practices echoes, foundations of their history and their continuity today. A young Kiowa woman appears in traditional dress. What she wears isn't just clothing, it's memory in motion. From patterns to beads, every element holds meanings, stories, and names of ancestors. Her appearance links present and origin, preserves community values, and keeps alive the stories that still echo among her people. It's passed down from generation to generation. In 1916, on the Rosebud Reservation, the leader Black Bull emerged. His voice carried beyond the reservation's borders and mobilized the Sioux community. With firm choices and an eye on the future, he became a reference for wisdom and courage. Around him, life on Rosebud took shape, and his legacy kept echoing beyond the prairies. In the second half of the 19th century, around 1891, the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota saw the Sioux leadership of Two Strike, Crow Dog, and High Hawk grow stronger. Their decisions reverberated in the community's daily life and guided political debates, connecting traditions and strategies to face the challenges around the reservation. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. At the start of the 20th century, in the area that's now Arizona and California, 3 young Kemehuevi grew up between deserts and rivers. More than children, they were the daily bridge between their people and the land. They looked after the paths, learned the cycles of hunting and harvesting, and in doing so, kept alive the memory that sustained the community's identity. We return to the early 20th century across the wide lands of Alberta, Canada. The image shows two men of the Blackfoot Nation, quietly attentive, as if guarding old stories. Between plains and open sky, their presence reminds us these peoples have lived there long before borders, and that every gesture carries memory and place. Around 1882, on the Great Plains of North America, an Arapaho mother poses beside her son. The image records the daily life and bonds of a community that has lived in the region for generations. Photographer William Alma captures the moment with precision, inviting the eye to notice gestures, objects, and the quiet that shapes life in that land. In 1875, four Pawnee brothers, known for their music, crossed time through a photograph. The image was made by William Henry Jackson, whose lens was dedicated to documenting the life and heritage of Indigenous nations. In this image, the brothers aren't just posing. They affirm presence, memory, and culture in a portrait that still speaks to us. A young mother from an Indigenous nation holds her baby to her chest, in a record from the early 20th century. Her steady gaze meets the camera while her traditional clothing shows her community's art. In hands, fabric, and quiet, the scene connects affection and collective memory, showing how identity passes from generation to generation in the image. In Montana, in the booming 1920s, Stumphorn of the Cheyenne Nation was photographed carefully holding a rifle whose history goes back to the Battle of Little Bighorn. The image presents him as a bridge between past and present, a man who carries in his hand the memory of the conflict and, in his gaze, the heritage that sustains his people. In the 1920s, the tribe saw in Joe Leamoose, Chief Flathead, a unifying axis. He built consensus, led councils, and kept the community cohesive. Between council and conflict, he listened, weighed, and decided. By defending the land and way of life, he turned leadership into daily commitment and an example that held the group together. In 1911, among the Pagan, a man known as the Pledger stood out. It wasn't just a name. He led rituals, kept stories, and linked different times. Acting as a bridge between ancestors and the young, he kept collective memory alive and the continuity of traditions that shaped the tribe's identity. In this way, the present met the past in the village. In the first years of the 20th century, in the Arizona desert, a Hopi mother and her daughter lived their lives. Among dunes and plateaus, their daily rhythm followed the village's pulse. Rituals, harvests, arts, and stories told by the fire. With each gesture, the Southwest's heritage pulsed, uniting generations and shaping who they were and how they walked the world. Around 1905, near the Colville Indian Reservation in Washington, a quiet moment took shape. A baby beside an older girl. The landscape, vast and alive, surrounded them. Among trails, rivers, and wind in the trees, that meeting spoke of future and belonging, reminding us that every childhood holds a people's memory. Chief Joseph became one of the central voices of the Nez Perce in the early 20th century. His leadership guided his people's struggle to preserve culture and ancestral lands. In 1903, he stayed active, seeking ways to ensure collective survival and protect traditions as pressure from settlers and measures imposed by the U.S. government grew. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Chief Peaches, leader of the Little Bone Reserve tied to the Sakime First Nation near Grenfell in Canada, was a central voice of the Cree community. His work goes back to 1884, a decisive time for the First Nations, when alliances, conflicts, and negotiations with European colonizers shaped paths and marked the future of the lands and local peoples. Around 1902, historical records highlight Geronimo, leader of the Chiricahua Apache. More than a name in documents, he became a turning point. His actions and choices lit up the Southwest's history and opened the way for a closer reading of native cultures. By following his steps, we better understand the strength and continuity of that legacy. In 1915, in the American Southwest, a Navajo woman approached a stream to fetch water. The gesture, simple and essential, sustained her household and strengthened village bonds. In that everyday moment, memory and resilience intertwined, showing how Indigenous nations kept life going amid the pressures of that period. Around 1900, Carl Wernz recorded in Missiongovi, Arizona, the portrait of a young Hopi woman. The framing invites you to look closely at a daily life that spans generations. The ceremonial clothes, steady gaze, and stone settings stitch together past and present, suggesting the strength with which the Hopi people hold on to their ways of life and pass on their memory. In 1905, a photograph shows the Ute chief Buckskin Charlie displaying a peace medal. The object, given by the U.S. government, is a reminder of a time of negotiations between indigenous leaders and federal authorities. More than an ornament, it signals a decisive chapter in relations between native peoples and the state, when dialogue and tension walked side by side. A young Chiricahua Apache woman appears in her people's attire. Fabrics form patterns and adornments that tell stories, while each accessory holds its own meaning. It isn't just clothing, it's living memory, identity, and ritual, a link with the ancestors. By wearing it, she carries her people's presence and affirms in her own body the continuity of their tradition. In 1885, in the wide lands of the White Mountain, an Apache scout named Peneltish, also known as Zoc, earned respect. He moved silently along dry paths, read signs others couldn't see, and guided travelers safely. Among dunes and rocks, his precise vision made the difference and supported the community that trusted him.